Welcome to the Devy debate. All right, boys, are we ready to debate? Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Gotta get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
It is first and goal. Ball spotted just inside the 10. Algier in. Wilson faked it to him and keeps it. Zach Wilson, the speed, and he dives for the end zone. Touchdown.
That's Austin Nate.
Gibbs, who is probably going to be the best pass catcher out of the three.
Now. First down, he's going to get after it again. And look at the speed and the spark and the score from Gibbs. Just what Georgia Tech needed.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields! Hello! Columbus, 51 yards!
Austin, you tweeted something, bro. You tweeted your running back ranking. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Ohio State fan talking there.
Oh, shit.
That is why you come to the Devy debate. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. Hey, everybody, no show sheet tonight. We are just talking. We wanted to get together and just talk. We had a lot of topics on our outline. And with the holidays going on, we wanted to do something a little less formal. So we just wanted to go into it. I think I'll start here. We can talk about Ohio State. I want to talk about a little bit about that Ohio State-Indiana game and just how impressed I was with a couple of folks. Tom Allen and his team, even in a loss, were super impressive. They were down 35-7 at one point and fought back in that game. And, man, Michael Penix Jr., I know people are not as high on him as I am, but I tell you what, one thing that he does that I don't see really anyone else in the country doing is he delivers the ball accurately as he's getting hit in the mouth. Yeah. Pressure coming right up the middle, getting hit, and he's delivering the ball accurately. He has one of the strongest arms in the country. His mechanics are terrible, but boy, will he stick in that pocket and take a lick. He did it at the end of the Penn State game. He did it at Ohio State. He's just a really impressive, gutsy player. That whole team is – the problem in that game was, just like the Penn State game, is the defense were keeping them in it early. Offense just couldn't get it going early, and that has a lot to do with where Michael Penix is putting his feet, quite frankly, because he misses too many easy shots. But all that being said, I mean, Indiana has not been a football team, and for them to go into the horseshoe and play the way they did and come back, I'm just really, really impressed with the Indiana football team. I think Tom Allen has to be the leader in the clubhouse for Coach of the Year, followed by the BYU's head coach, who I can't say his name, but just really impressed with him. And I mean, Bruning, you and I we text about this. I think you have to be encouraged about Justin Fields' performance. Yeah, because everyone's going to have a bad game. And if that's Justin Fields at his worst, and he's still making plays with his legs to kind of close it out, they did give the ball back to Indiana, but he got a lot of first downs with his legs and made good decisions at the end of that game. If that's Justin Fields at his worst, sign me up, man. I know I play the Michigan homer when we do this show, but putting some of the silliness away for a second, man, I just think Justin Fields is a really impressive person, not even considering him as a football player. Just going back to watching him on the QB1 show and just how poised and mature he was, and he showed some of that poise and maturity. He's going to be a CEO in the huddle whenever he gets drafted, and I think that he's going to be someone who's really dedicated to his craft. So even in a loss, I'm impressed with Indiana, and even with Justin Fields playing his worst game in his 2-year career there at Ohio State, I'm very impressed with him also. But that's just me. Bruni, I'll turn it to one of you guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Obviously, it's hard for me to, I guess, remain unbiased, being as a big a Buckeye fan as I am. But I we talked about this, as you mentioned. We were texting, and I'm sure I mentioned this to Austin. I think it was in our group text. Justin Fields had an interview where he talked about he does nothing but stay at home in his dorm room, and when he's not on his online classes, he's studying tape. He leaves his apartment to go to the Woody to practice or to go to the grocery store, where he literally almost in a way disguises himself because he doesn't want to be stopped by people and be rude. Like, he's just about trying to get through the season, win a Heisman, win a national championship. And that's what you want to hear. Now, yeah, it wasn't a great game, but I think we can all admit some of that was him just trying to do too much. I mean, 2 of those interceptions, I think one of them he admitted was on him, where he tried to throw it out of bounds and just didn't get there, and it got intercepted. The other one, he tried to throw it to Julian Fleming across the middle. He should have just taken the sack, but he's one of those guys who didn't want to take it. I'm with you. I was in a lot of Twitter fights this weekend about and in our Devy group chat as well on Dynasty Nerds about people wanting to throw now Zach Wilson over him, Kyle Trask, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, Justin Fields now after one bad game in 17 is the 5th best quarterback in this class. Get out of here, man. He's amazing still. I don't want to hear that crap. His one bad game, I went back and looked at Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence had an even worse game against Georgia Tech last year. Georgia Tech, who finished as like the 70th ranked defense. Indiana's top 15 right now in defense. And I'm pretty sure I didn't see anybody else talking about Trevor Lawrence not being the 1-1 in this year's draft because of a bad game against Georgia Tech. So get out of here with that bullshit.
But put on your objective hat for a moment.
It was a horrible game.
It was a horrible game. And I like Justin Fields. Yeah. I like Justin Fields, the person. I like Justin Fields, the football player. You would agree that it wouldn't be a shock if Justin Fields went over Trevor Lawrence. I mean, they're kind of in a tier, but I think at this point, because of the way that Zach Wilson has played, I don't think it would be a shock for Zach Wilson to be drafted ahead of Justin Fields. I mean, come on now, be objective.
I'm being objective, and I'd love to hear Austin's thought on this too. I would be shocked. Shocked is not the wrong word. I'd be surprised if Fields went over Lawrence. I do think Lawrence is like the for sure number one. If the Jets end up with the first pick, I don't think they go Fields. I think it'd be Lawrence. Wilson over Fields, I think, would be more shocking to me than Fields going over Lawrence. I think Wilson's good. Obviously, we've had this discussion on here. I'm a big fan of Wilson, but I think all the questions you have about Wilson's game, I don't necessarily have about Fields' game. So for me, it'd be surprising to see him go over. That's just my opinion. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, I'd be more surprised about Wilson going over Fields than I would Fields going over Lawrence. Not that I think either of those things would happen, but I think the top 2 are closer than like there's a decent sized gap between 2 and 3. Whether you think that's Wilson, whether you think that's Lance, whether you think that, Kyle Trask, whatever. I think there's a pretty big gap there. But
I don't think that there's a gap there anymore. And it has nothing to do with the way that Justin Fields has played. It has everything to do with the way Zach Wilson has played. I think at this point you have essentially 2 top tiers, and Justin Fields is in both of them. He's in both the first tier and the second tier. But I would not be surprised if Zach Wilson was drafted ahead of Justin Fields. So went back, Bruning. I used your PFF and looked this up.
Yeah,
he's completing 62%. Zach Wilson is completing 62% of his passes over 20 or more yards down the field, and he has 42 of those attempts. He has the second most yards on passes completed on deep attempts, but he's only 20th in attempts. I mean, so what that means is he's doing this very efficiently. But that just tells us pass attempts that are 20 or more yards down the field. What about the passes that are 50 and 60 yards down the field? I mean, those are the plays that are being made that make you just say, wow, what can this kid really do? And the one feather in Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence's respective caps that Zach Wilson doesn't have is time. Justin Fields is in his second season. Trevor Lawrence is in his third season as a starter. And, technically Zach Wilson is in his third season as a starter, but his first season making these types of plays where, he's really raising the level of his game. He didn't do this in previous seasons for, he had injuries and what have you. But that being said, the last two number one picks in Joe Burrow and Kyler Murray, they had one season of elite production and they were elevated all the way to the number one pick. Now, I don't think that Kyle Wilson is the prospect that Kyler Murray was.
Yeah.
But
it's been a long day, Dennis.
I think that he can, he is having a type of meteoric rise the same way Joe Burrow did. If Zach Wilson, hypothetically, if he went back to school and came out next year, he could potentially be the number one pick in the draft. Yeah. And with that talent, I'm not going to be surprised if he goes over Justin Fields. I'm just not going to be surprised. I think that he's elevated his game that much and is shown a lot. I mean, seriously, I was thinking about cutting, and I probably am going to do it, cutting up a video of all the 60-yard passes that Zach Wilson has thrown this season. I have Justin Fields stats on the deep passing. So Justin Fields he's being very good too. He's completing 73.3% of his passes over 20 yards, but he only has 15 attempts. So they're being asked to do different things.
Yeah.
Well,
that's not Ohio State's offense, though. I think that's the biggest thing against Fields. Like I was going to bring up, I'll do some of it because I'm going to change it up, obviously. But the biggest thing for me, and of course, the biggest hit that comes for Fields now is because most of this came in that Indiana game where we just talked about he was not good. But under pressure this year, in 21 attempts, he's only completed 10 of those balls. So for 47.6%, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions for a quarterback rating of 47.9. That's not great. That's Fields. Now, when blitzed, he thrives, though. When blitzed, and we've seen it, one thing I don't like, and we saw it a lot with that Indiana game, is like when he sees the blitzers coming, he almost stands in the pocket like to avoid the tackle and then get outside the box. I saw it multiple times that game. I was paying very close attention. He does that a lot, where I think sometimes he just needs to hit his hot route or whatever he needs to do. But 62 of 46, 74.2 completion percentage, 572 yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions when he's blitzed. So he's very good there. Zach Wilson, and this is where I was starting to lean. When you asked us this question, we were talking about it in the text, I went through and looked at a bunch of different guys. So under pressure, 36 of 16 for 301 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 67.9% completion. So almost 20% better than Fields.
111.1 quarterback rating.
Yeah. Blitzed. When he's blitzed, 75 of 53, 70.7, 809 yards, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception for a 90.3 rating. So, but let me ask you this. Big difference in competition. That was the one thing I looked up. The best defense he played, and I'm just going to be honest, I don't think that this defense is going to finish anywhere near there because their level of competition has not been good, has been Troy, who has a defensive ranking of 14 right now. And I'm sorry, I don't think that's going to finish there, but I just went based on where they were at the time they played. Troy was 14. The next best they played was Louisiana Tech at 72. I mean, so he has not played defenses like Justin Fields has. Now, granted, Fields hasn't played some of the best defenses either. Indiana at 41. Then the next best was Penn State, who was 50 at the time. They're sitting at 68 now. We've seen Penn State's not the team we thought they were going to be either. So that's where, in all honesty, I'll go. The reason I did this and the reason I said it was more surprising we were talking about it earlier is more how good Mac Jones and Kyle Trask have been against much better defenses and the way their stats compared to those two were the big standouts out of the 5 that I looked at, which was Fields, Wilson, Mac Jones, Trask, and Trevor Lawrence. And Mac Jones and Trask were the bigger standouts out of those 5, just based on the defenses they played. I mean, both Mac Jones and Kyle Trask had 2 matchups against top 15 defenses and were putting up amazing stats in both those when pressured, blitzed, everything. It's kind of weird seeing those 2 being so good against defenses and in those kind of situations where the other 3, I mean, again, Wilson was by far better than Fields and Lawrence when being pressured and blitzed. But again, I wonder how much of that is the competition he's playing. And that's what I meant when I said that the questions in his game Wilson, you can argue, is maybe just as good as Lance and Fields and a lot of the arm talent, legs, and everything. But we haven't seen it against the really good competition to know, can he do that against those top-tier guys? Because you see Fields playing against NFL draft picks one day. Wilson, did we get to see that this year? I mean, I haven't gone back and looked at everybody he played. Has he played a bunch of NFL prospects on the defensive side? I don't think so. So how much of that will affect his game moving forward?
Yes, I do agree that, I mean, he hasn't played the same competition, but there are some things that when they stand out, you're like, okay, that's something that's translatable. For example, ball placement. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're playing against. When you place a ball, right over the shoulder of a wide receiver who's covered, I think that you can do that at any level. It's just like with a wide receiver and speed. Like a fast dude is going to be a fast dude, whether or not he's playing in Division II or if he's playing in Division I at the highest level. 65-yard passes when your heel is touching the 23 and you throw it to the other 30. I mean, it doesn't matter what conference you're playing in or what level of competition you're playing. You still got to complete the pass. And let's just give credit to Zach Wilson for doing that. I mean, he doesn't make the schedule. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's be honest. They got screwed with COVID this year. They had good teams on the schedule. So that's where it sucks, because we had a chance to see him possibly play really good teams this year. And then due to COVID and all the conferences kind of eliminating games outside of their conference, going to conference-only games, we're not going to get to see that.
You guys want to talk about Rondale Moore?
I would love to talk about Rondale Moore. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But Bateman is your number one, though, Brony, remember?
I mean, Moore's 2. No, he's 3 actually behind Chase. Well, I had Moore at 1 for the longest time. I can't quit Bateman. All right, I'm going to go full broke back on you guys. I just can't quit you. I mean, I love Rashad Bateman, and he hasn't been great this year. I think we can all admit that, but I was slowly getting ready. I was very quietly going to get ready to move Bateman down, hold a little memoriam in my house, just quietly to myself, light a couple candles, cry about it because I love Rashad Bateman. And then he made that catch and I was just like, nope, I'm done. He's right back up at number 1. I can't do it. I know you're not a big fan of his game. I love Bateman, man. I think he's going to be, but I think we've all talked about this with other people, and Austin, I think you have Moore at 1, right? He's your number 1.
I had literally on Thursday moved him down to 3 because we hadn't seen him play, and they kept saying maybe next week, maybe. And I was like, this dude's just not going to play it all this year. Like I've seen these other people for like a year and a half now where I haven't seen this kid at all. So I bumped him down to 3, and then he did that. And I posted that tweet about I repent to Rondale Moore. I'm so sorry. He's back up to 1 for me. Yeah.
So I mean, I'll ask both of you. Can you, if you're sitting at 1-3 in your rookie draft standard, obviously Superflex changes everything, but 1-3 standard, and Najee Harris and Travis Etienne, the first 2 off the board, in my opinion, you can't go wrong with those top 3 guys, or even 4 if you want to throw Waddle in that category. I don't think you can go wrong taking any one of those 4 guys. Unless one ends up on Baltimore, because I don't think Lamar Jackson can pass worth shit right now. So unless one ends up on Baltimore, outside of that, I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those 3 or 4 guys if you want to put Waddle in that tier, which I know some do. He's not quite there for me yet.
That's one thing that I can't wait to get to the offseason so we can, essentially watch these again, is to figure out who is number 1, and draw some differences between all of the top guys. Because I really like Terrence Marshall. I like his length. I mean, I like his speed, and I think he's versatile. I want to put him in the top tier. So, but I'm not going to be able to figure out who I actually like until I can watch, all of their games in an hour span and figure out who I actually like. But man, Rondale Moore, man, he just showed you again. Every time he gets on the field, he's like, "Yep, I am that dude. That dude." The
thing I like a lot about him is that he, I think people try to categorize him as a gadget guy. You're trying to get him on some end arounds, some screens. You're trying to get him in space and let him do his thing. but he produces in the flow of the offense too, which I really, really like about him. And when I think he's different than I hate guys that are gadget guys in college because I don't think they usually translate. Like I was not a Paris Campbell guy. I'm still not a Paris Campbell guy because everything that he was getting was basically they had to scheme him open. And I've heard people say the same thing about Moore, and it's not true at all. I think he's a lot more skilled than that. I think he's really similar to DJ Moore.
I was going to say DJ Moore.
I think he's a much better prospect.
My comparison to him, and I don't know if you guys would agree with this because I don't like comps, but I see him as when he gets to the NFL, I think he's Steve Smith, but with more speed. With the way he plays, how aggressive he is, the way he goes after the ball, I think he's Steve Smith, but with more speed, which I think is a possible Hall of Fame wide receiver. He's got to stay healthy, obviously, but that's who I see him as.
Yeah, he's from right here in Louisville. I lost my train of thought. I don't remember what I was going to say.
Because he's that damn good. You can't think of anything but him when you talk about him.
It's funny because it's been so long since that Ohio State versus Purdue game on, that nationally televised game where he
destroyed us.
Ran all over you guys. But he's just such a physical player and is so versatile in so many ways. Because they were trying to get the ball to him deep too.
Yeah,
throughout that game. So. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who's going to be number one when March.
I will say with your Terrace Marshall comment, I think he is the guy that's at the top there. That's built most like your traditional alpha.
Right.
And I think he is going to go higher than people like in like the dynasty and all those communities think because I think a team's going to look at him and say we missed out on DK Metcalf. Mm-hmm. We really don't want to F that up again.
Or DJ Chark.
Or you know what I mean? Like those guys have been falling recently. I think a team is going to say, we're not making that mistake again this year. Yeah. So I could see him going like in the top half of the first round. I wouldn't take him there, but it wouldn't, that wouldn't be.
It was like it's either going to be Terrence Marshall or Tamarion Terry, and I don't know that it's going to be Tamarion Terry. Too inconsistent, but similar players, similar style players, long, lengthy frames. Fast, big, tall, So,
Terry's also really old.
Yeah,
Terry's like 23 and a half or something.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's really, really old. He was old when he came out, and then he took a redshirt year. So yeah, he's an older guy.
I sold him for G. Scott Jr. Best trade I've ever made. I listened to, obviously we were talking about this off air. I listen to sports radio podcast stuff all day. There's been a lot of talk, and I'm sure you guys have heard it too. The NFL circles are kind of in love with Devonta Smith, and he might be the number one wide receiver taken NFL wise. What do you guys think about him?
We've talked a little bit about Devonta Smith. I put him on the Calvin Ridley, Deontay Johnson spectrum, and I like that player, that type of player. His frame bothers me a little bit, but I think that it's weird that player being taken first for the first wide receiver taken. But I don't have a problem with that.
Hang on, I'm going to pull up. Go ahead, Austin. I'm going to pull up the draft order really quick so I can ask you a question.
I was going to say, and like a year where like 2019, maybe I could have seen him being the first guy off the board. Where like N'Keal Harry, like Hollywood Brown, like those were kind of your other options. But this year, it just has too many other guys that not only are like very skilled receivers, but are also really good athletes. Yeah. So it would be a really big shock to me to see a guy like. I mean, I think Smith is like my sixth guy, maybe. Six or seven. For me too. He's right in there.
You feel better when that type of player is drafted in the third round and is kind of like an under the radar player. To be elevated into the first round is kind of like.
Yeah, there's some different expectations there because I don't see Smith's ceiling as more than like a high end wide receiver 2 kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd be disappointed like if the Steelers took him. Like that would bum me out if they took him early.
Top teams I'm looking at, say, in the top 10 right now that might need a wide receiver. Washington, I don't know what you guys think. AGG, Steven Smith, obviously they've got McLaurin, who's a rock-solid stud, but they probably need someone on the other side of him. I liked AGG. I don't know. I mean, if you're sitting, I don't know if they take a wide receiver at 5, but obviously they've got 36 in the second round, so they're still picking pretty early there. Giants, Shepard's always banged up. I like Slayton, but he's been kind of injury ridden lately. Detroit, Kenny Galladay's a free agent. I don't know about any of those guys. Minnesota, New England, San Francisco, Denver, Chicago, Miami. I mean, those are kind of all the top teams right there. So go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I don't see a wide receiver going in that top 10. I mean, a lot of those teams that you named, I think they could take quarterbacks, especially like Washington.
That's going to be the interesting discussion, right?
Yeah.
Because
go ahead.
Go ahead. I heard someone talking about this the other day, and I think that they're right. It may have been Kane saying this, Shane Hallam said this, I think, that we think that there should be 5 or 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round, but you don't see that much from NFL teams. Like NFL teams don't bail that quickly on some of these quarterbacks. So the guys that we think should be replaced may not actually be replaced that quickly. And so that makes me wonder if, like, Washington does make sense because they're not going to go back to Dwayne Haskins. I don't think Alex Smith is their future. So if you're sitting there, I think they're 5 right now. Yeah, they're 5. New York, Jacksonville probably go quarterback. Cincy doesn't. I would think Dallas doesn't. So unless someone trades up to there now, you're sitting there at 5 with Lance, assuming Fields and Lawrence are the top, or Lawrence Fields are the top 2. Lance, Wilson, Jones, and Trask all sitting there. So you got your pick of those 4. I would think Washington goes quarterback, but I don't know if they do. And then outside of that, though, Chargers aren't. I don't think the Giants pass on Daniel Jones. Now, I know a lot of people want to get rid of Daniel Jones. I don't think they get rid of him this early.
San Francisco, I think.
San Francisco's all the way down at 14. So who falls to 14? Because, I'm going to be honest, that's what my ideal landing spot for Zach Wilson. That's where I'd love to see him land. Because I think him with his skill set and Kyle Shanahan's offense would be the best fit for him, just personally.
Everybody wants to see Zach Wilson with one of these offensive coordinators, Kyle Shanahan or Sean Payton or Joe Brady in Carolina.
Yeah,
those are the 3 names that I've heard. Really,
you don't want to see him go to Minnesota, where all Mike Zimmer wants to do is run the ball 80 times a game and throw it 5 times. I mean, it might be a touchdown 4 of those 5 times with with Wilson's his arm, but you don't want to see that. You want to see him go to a pass-friendly offense.
Speaking of which, all my Mac Jones hate is going to be terrible if he actually gets drafted by the Saints.
It's going to happen.
And Sean Payton is a coach and be like, oh shit, he's going to be. I mean, Sean Payton is he's so good. They're 6-0 in the last 2 years with their backup quarterbacks Teddy Bridgewater and now Taysom Hill. Man, I can't wait to see him the next.
I wonder if they do it, though. He loves Taysom Hill. Like, they just re-signed Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill is what, 31, though? I mean, I think they got to get somebody in the fold there. I mean, I would have. So,
I mean, I agree with you, but I'm sitting at home in my chair right here. I'm not GM in an NFL team, so Sean Payton might disagree with me. I can't wait for that, man. I know we've talked about it. I can't wait till the offseason gets here, man. Some of these drafts that we're going to be able to do and mock drafts, it's going to be fun, man. I can't wait.
Yeah. After seeing some of those GM setups over the draft, I don't think yours is any worse than theirs, Bruning. As I see you with your flag in the back, and
it'd be weird if I was the Saints GM and I'm rocking a Buckeyes and Browns. And I'm like, what? I like my teams. I still, I still take care of the Saints. But yeah, I got you.
Better than Vrabel, who had what? Like some guy
the dude shitting in the background,
hooping in the background. Like,
that was pretty bad.
Do you guys have thoughts about whether Penix can be a first round quarterback? I've finally found one blue check mark to say that he's a potential. Yeah,
is it Michael Penix that said it? Does he have a blue check mark?
No,
okay.
It's his body count.
RJ Young. RJ Young said that he could go in the first. I'm like, yes, finally. Somebody.
I mean, my thing is, again,
I don't think he's a 2020. I think he's a 2023. Like, I think that he's gonna stay.
If he goes 2023, maybe, because like right now we're seeing from the small sample sizes of Young and I call him ukulele. I'm pretty sure that's not how you say it. I know you say it the correct way, Felix. I don't.
Weungale.
There we go. I'll just call him DJ. I'll just call him DJ. For Bryce Young and DJ, like those are the 2 that we all assume will be at the top of the class. So yeah, I mean, if Penix stays for 2023, I wouldn't be surprised if he beats out Haynes King, who's the Bailey from Tennessee, Stroud, Miller, whoever ends up being the Buckeyes quarterback. I mean, is there anybody you can think of off the top of your head, Austin, outside those 2?
No, I think it's going to be a pretty I mean, people always emerge, but it doesn't look as strong as like 2022, or at least not like a lot of freshman breakouts this year. Yeah, because that's my thing. If he goes 2022, I mean, you're looking at, again, there's a chance that some of these guys fall down, but I mean, you got Howell, Jaden Daniels, Slovis, Rattler, Mertz.
Who else am I not thinking of? Ganell, who I
only
love.
I only like Kyle, Mertz, and Rattler out of those that you named.
Have you watched Grant Ganell, Arizona?
I know you talked. I have not. I have not.
I've got. He's good. He's got a cannon. He's got a cannon. And you know what he doesn't have? That Phillip Rivers throwing motion like Penix does. He's got that traditional, which that's the one thing that worries me, man. But again, Phillip Rivers made it work for how long that dude been in the league? 50 years. So Penix can probably do it. He's more athletic than Rivers. I'll give him that.
I didn't think that motion could be replicated by anybody else. Like I literally thought that was going to be a once in a lifetime thing that I watched. And I was watching Penix the other day. It just blew my mind. Is Rivers his idol? He like said that? Because that's not a natural that's not a natural motion. I don't know where you get that from.
Hey, we talked about quarterbacks. I want to see if you guys think any of these teams should draft a quarterback. The Eagles?
Not this year. I think if Wentz struggles again next year, 2022, yes. But here's the problem, because I talked about this today on my other million podcast I was doing. They can't move on from Wentz. If they can't. It's a $59 million cap hit this year if they cut him. Next year is $30 million. Then the year after that is $15 million, and then it's $8 million. So I don't see any way they can get out of him until 2022, 2023. So for me, I think if he struggles again in next year in 2021, then maybe you can draft that guy in 2022 because there'll likely be another high pick. So again, we just talked about possibly 5, 6, even 7 quarterbacks that could be decent. So for me, Wentz would be a guy in the 2022 draft I would try and replace. I would not 2021, unless you want to do an Aaron Rodgers thing where he sits for a couple years. Because again, there's no team that can survive a $59 million cap hit and expect to even try and compete.
What about the Broncos?
Yeah, I thought Locke was going to be good for them, but I think. But so here's the thing with the Broncos. Where are the Broncos sitting right now? 15. So I mean, they realistically could probably get one of those top guys. It's the weird thing. It's I don't know ahead of them because like you could argue Detroit. Like, is Detroit ready to move on from Stafford now? Could they go quarterback? New England, they don't have a quarterback unless they're going to stick with Jared Stidham. You mentioned San Francisco, so you could eventually get to a point where those 4 or 5 guys we were talking about are all gone by the time we get to 15 at Denver.
Do you all think? I think that we will get at least 5 quarterbacks in the first round.
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, and probably in the top 15-ish that we get quarterback because they're going to trade up for them too.
I think someone's going to be really aggressive and move up.
Yeah.
Like I think we're going to see a huge trade like from like 15, 16 to like 4, like whatever that ends up being. I could totally see that happening this year because there's not like a lot of consolation prizes if you don't need a quarterback this year outside of Sewell, really. Then it's like a bunch of like a pit of like 20 guys that are like the same. So, yeah.
Yeah, see, and I don't think that'll be Dallas because I think Sewell, I don't see how he goes 1-2 right now, so I would think Dallas takes him to shore up that offensive line. I mean, you've got to at this point, right, to protect Dak, assuming you bring Dak back?
I've heard Dallas fans complain about that strategy. One, because you either have to move him or Smith into guard, and then 2, because their defense is so abysmal. I've heard a lot of Dallas fans say they just need to literally draft straight defense like the whole way across the board.
Again, I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know much about the defensive side of college football. I don't pay that close attention. Who's the top defensive guy that you would take at 3, though? Is there anybody game changing? Because I don't think there's anybody
big this year. No.
Yeah. So I mean, at this point, why not? I mean, there's nothing. Dallas was a playoff Super Bowl team when they had that offensive line they had with Dak and Zeke there. I think you've got to reshore up your offensive line, in my opinion, because I don't know if everybody says Dak will be fine coming back from that injury, but will he be just as mobile as he was before? I mean, that's not an easy injury to come back from. I don't care how good you are. I mean, a literally dislocated ankle.
It seems like Waddle. It seems like Waddle's trying to come back from it already. Did you see that?
He's a kid, though. That's what happens when you're. What is he? 21.
They can't be more than 25? 5 or 6 years difference.
Yeah. Hey, look. 5-6 years is a big difference, my friend. I don't know how old you are, but I do not feel the way I did 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I could stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning and get up at 4. Like, I'm ready for the day. Now, dude, I'd be dead.
How would you guys rank the wide receivers in that Minnesota Purdue game? David Bell, Rondell Moore, Rashad Bateman.
Moore would be one for me for sure. Bateman would be a serious conversation for me.
Yeah, I think I would have Bell ahead of Bateman.
Yeah, Yeah, same.
Oh,
Yeah, I like him a lot.
Bernie?
I can't do it. I can't do it. Bateman Bell. Bateman Bell. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna stick with it.
The thing that Bateman's so good at, like those body control, like sideline catches. David Bell is probably the best guy in college at it. He's so good. Like so many balls are like underthrown that he comes back to like through the corner. Like, yeah, I really like watching him play. It seems like he comes from like the schoolyard, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll just go up and catch like whatever I can.
I remember talking to one of my LSU friends, a fan who's a LSU fan. I was like, you guys had Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. on the same team, and what did you do? And like Odell Beckham had like 700 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I feel about Bell and Moore. I mean, those guys are really dynamic.
Well, you know what the funny thing about that is too is both and making that comparison, Moore won the Paul Hornung Award, and so did Odell Beckham Jr. and still nothing. Like they still couldn't do anything to which I would say it's probably more devastating on LSU's side because of the way that they likely could have recruited. I don't see Purdue's not a massive like recruiting powerhouse to bring in those people, but LSU still had a great defense back then. Their always biggest issue was they never had a quarterback.
Yeah.
They had guys like me trying to sidearm it out there to those guys. It's just not working.
Speaking of teams without quarterbacks, did you all watch JT Daniels this past weekend?
I did not. I have not watched it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a little bit of it, and he definitely made the offense look different.
Yeah.
He made the offense look different, and two, damn, I wish I had Jermaine Burton more on my teams. Like, I wish I had Jermaine Burton. It's something about that number 7 at Georgia. I mean, it's the same thing at Michigan, where number 1 is supposed to be the number reserved for the top, at least receiver. That number 7 at Georgia, it's like, oh man, that player has been dynamic in the last couple of years, and I wish that I had Jermaine Burton. I don't know. I wonder if people would take Jermaine Burton over George Pickens now. No,
no. Because Pickens was great too.
Yeah.
They were using Burton in that deep role, which they don't use Pickens in at all.
No.
So that's where he was. It was interesting for me. I watched that whole game because I went on a tirade a couple weeks ago on here about, what are they doing at quarterback down there? And when I heard Daniels was starting, that was like my must-watch game. It was really interesting seeing the guys that he was targeting. That like it was completely different than like the guys that Bennett and DeJuan Mathis were looking at. Like those guys were looking at like the tight end a lot. They were looking at Kiarge Jackson. Jackson had like 2 targets. I don't know if the tight ends really had any. It was a much more functional offense, which was a lot more enjoyable to watch because it's like they just have like a wealth of talent at wide receiver. I don't think they have a guy on the roster that's lower than like a mid 4-star guy. Like it's like 4 or 5 5-star guys. Pickens was a 5-star. Demetrius Robertson was a 5-star. And then they also have, Burton was a high 4. Arian Smith was a high 4. Marcus Roseme, who's out for the year, is a high 4. So it's just an embarrassment of riches at that position that they couldn't use at all. So it was nice to see it.
I can't wait for the bowl season where we, get to see some of these teams play each other, like Georgia, where Georgia hasn't been at full strength the entire season, but we'll get to see them play another top ranked team, come December. Hopefully we get bowl season.
Hopefully.
So maybe we'll get to see BYU play, one of these top SEC teams in a bowl game somewhere.
Georgia, BYU. Who says no?
The Cotton Bowl is always really good. Is the Cotton Bowl always big? Is the Cotton Bowl always Big Ten and somebody? No.
Cotton Bowl. Last couple years ago, it was Ohio State USC. I was there at that game. Okay. I'd love it because Texas doesn't believe in COVID, so I'd probably actually go to that game if it was BYU Georgia at the Cotton Bowl. I'd show up. If Zach Wilson played, if Zach Wilson didn't play, I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't go. I'd be like, nah.
Ooh, that's a good question.
I don't think. I think he would because I don't think his draft stock is secured yet.
And if he played a top team and whoever
and decimated
USC it would be secured, and then you would be very sad when he's drafted ahead of Justin
won't happen.
Fields, so.
I already made like multiple bets that's not going to happen. If it does, I'm just you guys have to find someone to replace.
I think that you have to accept. This is the problem that I have is that it's to say that it could happen. Like let's at least say that it could happen. I'm not
saying it could happen. It could happen. I would just be more surprised if that did happen. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong in the past.
All right.
I thought Hakeem Butler was going to be a good wide receiver. So maybe he'll make a good time.
I thought Spencer Sanders was a good quarterback. Like I thought that he had the tools to be a good quarterback.
He still
hasn't been
got 1 more year to
terrible.
prove it. Yeah. He's been injured. He got injured earlier in the year. Cut him a little bit of a break. I mean, Shane Illingsworth isn't it, so you never know.
Mm-hmm.
That whole offense took a step back this year. I think their line's been significantly worse. I mean, Hubbard last year was running through those, like it was like a runway, and Hubbard was just taking off down it. And now it doesn't seem like that is there on either pass blocking or run blocking anymore.
How bad has he hurt his stock by coming back?
I don't know why any running back would ever come back ever. Like,
I mean, not Najee Harris improved his stock.
Has he though?
Yeah, there was talks that he was going to be a 3rd-round pick last year. That's why all the talk was he went back. I think he goes easy 2nd round now. I don't think any running back goes first this year.
I don't think so either.
I think
and
Harris
I do think
is easily a 2nd round back now.
I agree, and I think that he's the first running back taken.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's the first running back taken. And if we had a dynasty draft, he'd probably take him at the 1-on-1. The only problem, he's old too.
I mean, you got Javonte Williams. Did you really won one?
Austin, what's your confession?
So I have another.
I thought he loves Javonte Williams. I
thought that's what it was going to be.
It's close. That's not that far off. I've been working on this other project that involves some C2C rankings, and I moved Breece Hall up to my number 1 guy.
Let's go! I love Breece Hall, man.
Yeah, I really sat down and looked at it, and I was looking at like the top 21 guys. I was like, well, I like him more than Harris, and I think I like him more than Etienne, and he was already number 1 in his class for me. So, and he's the undisputed guy there. So I think for a C2C, like I would take him first running back and be happy about it. So
I roster him in a bunch of my C2C leagues. I love Hall. I think it's going to be great.
Where would he rank in the 2020 class? So with Jonathan Taylor, Swift, Akers, Dobbins, Edwards-Helaire.
3rd probably for me.
He'd be 4th for I don't know if I'd put him over Taylor or not. That's my question. Because my rankings, I had Swift, Dobbins were my top 2, and then it was Taylor. So that's where I'd come into question. I don't know. I'd probably put him over Taylor because I think he's a better receiver. Even though Taylor's actually been good this year for the Colts. Everybody wanted to, poo-poo on him for not being a good receiver. I think he's caught 26 to 27 passes, so he's been really good in the NFL. But I think the difference with those two is Taylor also has that home run speed. That's the only thing I think you cannot call for is he doesn't have the home run speed. He will get caught from behind. But that's the only thing I see as an issue with his game.
He's such an efficient cutter, though, that he doesn't lose a lot of speed moving laterally, which is good for him because, like you said, he's like not super fast. He's not slow either, though. I think he's faster than like Javonte Williams.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Man, why you got to slander Javonte Williams every
It's not even like
no,
I'm
kidding. No, yeah, I'm with you. Like he's that's what. It sucks because I don't feel like enough people are talking about Breece Hall. I think everybody probably has him up there as their number 1 prospect for 2022. Might just be because 2022 is not a great running back class. But if you actually just go watch him play, like he's a really good running back. It makes me sad that I've traded a lot of my 2022 first because I think he's going to be a running back that will be a NFL workhorse for a good 5-6 years and probably get that extra contract. Or I don't think we see that from a lot of running backs now moving forward.
Do you think he has a better fantasy career than let's say like a Melvin Gordon?
Yes. I never liked Melvin Gordon that much anyway. So yeah, I do.
He put up fantasy points though, because I was never a big fan of him either, but you know what I mean? Like, he's kind of the threshold guy for me where I think of like, is this a running back that I think I can build a roster around? And he's kind of like the cutoff guy.
My biggest thing with Gordon is, and it, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not production. What's the word when you get all the work? When you get everything sent your way?
Bell cow?
Volume.
Volume
Volume is key in fantasy. Phillip Rivers would dump the ball off to him 8-9 times a game. That's what he gets. That's why Eckler became the way that he was. So I think Breece Hall can do it without getting that volume. And Melvin Gordon, I think when look at what he's doing in Denver now, when he doesn't get the volume, he's not that good. Where Breece Hall is a guy, I think you could give him 3 or 4 catches and maybe only 11, 12 carries. He's still going to make a day for you because he's just
Philip Lindsay is a better player than pound for pound.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I mean,
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. My other podcast host is a big Denver fan, and it's my one claim to fame. And I don't know if Dennis is still watching because he always gives me shit that I bring this up. The first year that I ever started doing writing and everything, I had Philip Lindsay in my top 8 of running backs, even after he went undrafted. And I said I thought he would make a team, make a name on special teams, and become a starting running back because of how good I thought he was. And I will always say it's because of my brother. I'll be honest, I had no idea who he was. My brother went to Colorado State, was at the game where he decimated Colorado State. It was like, hey, you should look at this kid, Philip Lindsay. And I've been a fan ever since. I've had a few interactions with him on Twitter. I think he's an amazing guy, but I'm with you. They brought up, again, him being a Broncos fan, he brought up that, Melvin Gordon's had 4 fumbles this year for Denver, and Philip Lindsay has never had a fumble in his entire NFL career. Like, Philip Lindsay is a great player. He really is.
Yeah, he's a bursty back. He's a better running back than Melvin Gordon ever was. So, boys, you guys ready to call it a night?
Yeah.
I think so. We got to talk about Rondale. That's all I really wanted.
Yeah.
So,
well, we'll be back next week with more show, with a real show. This was just us talking today.
Yeah.
Subscribe to the podcast. This was not a good episode to tell everybody.
No,
subscribe to the podcast.
No, yeah, I mean, we had some good conversations. Do you want to? We still got a bunch of people watching. Talk about the jersey at all?
yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
Well,
I think we have like 7 or 8 ratings now, so there's still like 20 something spots available for people.
It takes a couple days, I think, sometimes for those to go through.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, people have been
they've gotta-
sending me screenshots. Like that's been
Gotcha.
like what I've been getting.
Okay.
So from what I've seen, I think we have like 7 or 8. But all you have to do is go on. Are we doing rate and review on any platform?
I don't know that you can rate and review.
I was going to say
It's gotta
I've
be
never
on
done it on
iTunes.
Stitcher, but
It's got to be on it's not even iTunes anymore. It's Apple Podcasts. So
Yeah.
Apple Podcasts.
Oh, crap.
yeah. So if you rate and review on there, follow the show on Twitter at Devy Debate, and then take a screenshot, send it to us, and just let us know, and we'll get you entered to win. It is a signed Kyler Murray OU jersey, which is pretty sick.
So I don't know if I didn't get some of these screenshots. I just pulled up the podcast. There's like 3 reviews on here that I know who one of them is. I know who Big White Dwight is. That's People's Champ on Twitter. I don't know who these other 2 dudes are, and I don't remember you posting pictures of these. So
I have one that I haven't posted yet, and then Carl posted as well.
Oh yeah, Carl did his a long time ago. I was going to make sure he got entered, but there's 2 on here that an Aaron Wilcox and a King Van D. I don't know who those are either. So if you guys listen,
I know
reach
who
out.
Aaron Wilcox is on Twitter.
Okay.
But
I would, reach out to Devy Debate at gmail.com.
yes.
Okay, because if one of you 2 wins it, I'd hate to not be able to send you. I mean, I wouldn't hate. I'd love to frame it and keep it at my house, but I assume you'd want it. So maybe reach out in the email, let us know who you are, because I mean, we've got what is it, 8 rates right now and like 6 reviews that just popped up on here, but it does take a couple days sometimes for them to approve. They, as Felix brought up with somebody, they don't want those bot accounts and whatnot doing that stuff. So they take it takes a couple days for some of that stuff to go through.
Well, subscribe, rate and review the podcast. Get entered to get a signed Kyler Murray Oklahoma jersey. We're bribing you. Take the bribe. All right, everybody. Have a happy Thanksgiving. We will see you next week.
All right. Oh, shoot. There we go. It's a pumpkin, buddy.
Oh, I'm exhausted.
I hear you.
How do you guys feel about the ham versus turkey debate? Because this thing's been like blowing up all over Twitter.
We have both at my house.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Same.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to
both.
me. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I ate a little bit of both the other day. It was my My family came into town this weekend. We did like a little family Thanksgiving. We did both turkey and ham. It doesn't matter to me. Food's food. I'll eat it.
Speaking of which, I'm probably going to order. Is there a football game on tonight? It's Tuesday.
There's not. Well, at least I didn't see one on Fubo when I was on there.
Think so.
I'm probably going to turn on Netflix and figure out what's on Netflix.
That's why you got to get that YouTube TV. That's what I'm doing tomorrow, actually, is watching the Georgia game since I didn't get a chance to watch it this weekend.
Okay. You know what I really want to see? I want to see Tenet. That's what I want to see.
It's so good.
It makes no sense. They should have released it. I think it's being released in December. They should have released it over Thanksgiving. People could watch it when they're off, like me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that may have something to do with it. Doesn't it always take a while for movies to get released onto DVD and whatnot after they come out in theaters? It always takes a certain amount of time for.
It feels like it depends on the movie, because if it's a movie that does poorly, it goes straight to DVD like that.
Yeah.
But Tenet was supposed to do well.
Oh,
so.
I'm sure it did. It's a great movie. It
didn't do well at all. It didn't even make its budget because of COVID.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't. I think its budget was like $5. I've actually looked into this. $500 million seems like a lot, but I think that's what its budget was. What was the Tenet budget?
No, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with the special effects and everything that went on in that movie.
Okay, so the budget was $205 million, and how much has it made? Tenet. Yeah, so it's only made $353 million.
Just a little bit more.
Just a little bit more. So I mean,
but that's the budget for the film. That probably doesn't count for however
the
much
budget
the
for the
actors
film.
got.
The budget for the film was 205, and
it's
made 353.7 million. So, but you got to think of the 353.7 million. Inception made 836 million. Interstellar made 669 million. Dunkirk, that wasn't even I don't even know who saw Dunkirk. That made 526 million.
But that's again the COVID stuff. Because I mean, I know people who are
I'm saying right. That's what I'm saying. Like, they got to figure out how to remarket these movies because people aren't going to the movie theater. So, as a matter of fact, my local movie theater, you can they advertising on the radio that you can rent out a theater for $99 for however many hours. So,
jeez.
Yeah, I mean, it's safe. Everything's open in Texas. You don't even have to wear a mask. You can just show up to the movie theater, watch whatever movie you want.
I wonder what I'm going to get to. I'm so hungry.
I watched Lord of the Rings over the past 2 days.
I saw that. I didn't see what you said on it. What did you say? I just saw you post something on it.
They're fine movies. I don't love them. Like they're entertaining. Like they're whatever. But like I hear people just like drool over them all the time, and like people that'll watch like the 20-hour like extended director's cut where they literally show them walking the whole thing. And I don't know how you can watch that. Like,
well, I mean, at the time they came out, it was a big deal. You hadn't seen movies like that, I think, that when they came out. Yes, I see your dinosaur, buddy.
That looks like the dinosaur from Toy Story.
It's Jurassic Park. It's blue. Oh. If you've seen the new Jurassic Park ones.
No, I haven't. That's another movie that I need to see.
Those are so good. I can't wait for the third one.
The Chris Pratt one? Chris Pratt?
Yeah, okay. Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard. I love Bryce Dallas Howard. So hot.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm probably not even going to go on Netflix. I'm going to go on YouTube and figure out, a new movie that I haven't seen.
Watch those. I think those are. I don't know if they're on Netflix. Those are good though.
No, on YouTube. Like I'm gonna go on YouTube movies and figure out and find a new movie that I haven't seen yet. So.
Queen's Gambit's good too if you haven't watched that yet.
Queen's Gambit.
I've never heard a lot of people talking about that. It's on Netflix, right?
It's on Netflix. It's like a limited series. I guess it's based off a book that was written a few years ago, but it's about a girl that's like she's like an orphan. They show this. This is all like the first 10 minutes of the first episode. So I'm not like spoiling anything. Her parents like are killed in a car accident. And she goes to live at this orphanage, and like the janitor teaches her chess, and then she becomes like a world like champion level chess player. But she's like addicted. She gets like addicted to tranquilizers at the orphanage, so that it's like a whole story. But it's really interesting because I don't care about chess or anything, but I was like drawn in.
Okay, I see it here.
And the girl that played the main character was really, really good. I really liked her too.
Okay.
So highly recommend if you're looking for something drama-y.
Okay.
to watch.
But now I'm looking for some food. I don't think I've eaten tonight. Like I think I've just taken care of everybody else in my house. Yeah.
I hear you.
Kalani
I'd take-
Sitake. Kalani Sitake. I think that is how you pronounce his name, the head coach at BYU.
Yeah, he's about to be on the TV show that I'm going to finish watching here in a minute.
He's probably going to be pissed off.
I think so. I know they brought him on to interview. He didn't look happy when I was recording, and he was on there for like 20 minutes.
14 is like
talking.
a slap in the face.
I was look at the teams above them though. I don't think they're better than any of those teams.
Oh, here we go. Let's see.
You know what I mean? Like I actually was pretty interesting. Like I looked at it. Like I thought they were in the perfect slot compared to like the teams that below them. I thought they were better than.
I somewhat agree with you. I don't like the fact that I understand that there was only Georgia 2 losses. I don't think they should have been. I know Miami's ahead of them too. I think they're 9 or 10. Miami is.
And there's a mix of, you know, how talented they think you are and if you're deserving of the spot. And so if you have 1 loss or 2 losses, I mean, it feels like normally that gets you kicked out or you're ranked lower than teams that are undefeated. So Iowa State, come on now, Iowa State.
Yeah, but they've been good ever since. I mean, I'm with you, but Indiana,
how's
Oklahoma? See, I would not have Oklahoma or Iowa State over them, just personally. So they'd be at probably 12 for me because I'd still keep Indiana ahead of them. After the game Indiana played, I'd keep Indiana.
All of these teams, I think the only teams that I would have ahead of them are so Northwestern, no. Miami, no. Northwestern, I guess you have to because they're undefeated, but they've only played 5 games.
Well, that's all they've had on their schedule so far. And they beat Wisconsin.
But they're ranked 8th here. Like, do we think that Northwestern is ranked ahead of Georgia? Do we think that Northwestern is better than Georgia? They would get
because of their wins and their defense.
It's a weird.
I guess that's my point. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So Northwestern is undefeated. Nobody thinks that they're better than Georgia, Miami, like all the 5 teams except for Indiana beneath them. But they're still ranked 8th because they're an undefeated Big Ten team. Yeah, so probably. And all they've played is Wisconsin.
I mean, it's better than anybody BYU's played though.
Is it? Is it though? Is it?
It is. Yeah. I mean, look, I'm with you. I probably wouldn't have Georgia there because the 2 good games the 2 good opponents that Georgia's played, they lost to. So I wouldn't have them. I wouldn't have Georgia above them. I wouldn't have Oklahoma above them or Iowa State. But I'd keep Miami.
Kalani Sitake, he does not look happy at all.
Yeah, that's what I said. I saw I'm about to get to it. He's right there on the screen. They haven't started interviewing him yet.
It's on YouTube already, so I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah. Speaking of Coach of the Year candidates, by the way, Sam Pittman from Arkansas is a guy that nobody's talking about. But at the beginning of the year, everyone was saying Arkansas is like going to be lucky to win a game. Arkansas is the least talented team in the SEC, and they've won 3 or 4. They almost won this weekend against LSU. They obviously aren't in the Bama class, and they're probably not even as good of a team as Indiana. But I mean, he came into that team, and I think they've exceeded their expectations more than pretty much any other team I can think of this year.
It's been like a decade since they've won, or have they ever even won an SEC game? And they finally won this year, and an SEC actually beat an SEC opponent.
Yeah, they were awful last year. They were I watched them a couple times last year, and they were just atrocious.
RJ Young said they were going to be good. So he said in the whole offseason that they were going to be good. He also says that
Michael Penix is a first-round draft pick.
Well, I was going to say he says that Zach Wilson is Ty Detmer, so I don't agree with everything that he says.
It's going to be so much fun to see what happens with him. I can't wait for.
Just reminds me. He just really his style of play reminds me of Russell Wilson from his improvisational skills. The fact that he doesn't have a cannon for an arm, but he has enough, and he's really good at the deep game. I mean, that's Russell Wilson. So
I do like how he can really vary that arm slot up a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I do love that about him. That's probably my favorite thing about him, to be honest. He can throw that sidearm shit 25 yards on a rope. It's just handy.
I have questions about Justin Fields' arm strength, and it's because he's not asked to do these opposite hash type things that that Michael Penix is asked to do.
I think his arm is better than Joe Burrow's, And Burrow
Oh, yeah.
is right at the threshold for me in terms of like,
Yeah.
is that an NFL quality like
Right.
arm? Like he
Right.
was like, yeah. I think Fields is stronger than his. So
Okay.
whatever that's worth. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but
No, I agree. I had problems with Burrow's arm strength also, because when you look at like Burrow compared to somebody, even like
Herbert?
Tua or Herbert.
Good
it's
God, that
ridiculous.
dude's cannon. Yeah, but Burrow is such a good. I always struggle saying this because I can't speak. Anticipatory thrower, like that's his.
Yes, he is.
That's
He is,
his
yeah.
game. That's where he thrives. He's never had the cannon, but yeah, dude, that touchdown to Keenan Allen, dear God, man, by Herbert this weekend, running on the run, absolute bullet to Keenan Allen. How Keenan Allen caught that is beyond me. That would have like destroyed me. I'd have broken a hand.
I'm still not convinced by Herbert, like fully.
How dare you?
Like I see people say he's like a 5 or like top 5 or 6 like dynasty quarterback already. I don't have him there. I don't know about you guys, but
6 top 12
Like-
finishes this year. He's only started 9 games.
like people put him over Dak and stuff. Like I
Yes.
can't do that.
Are you talking about Herbert?
Yeah.
Yes, he doesn't think Herbert's a top. Okay, so I'd put him. The only players I take over him: Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Josh Allen. I'd probably take. No, I hate Dak, so I'd still go Herbert. But that's just because I hate the Cowboys. So who else? Mahomes. Oh God, I will not forget it. My bad. I'm forgetting about Mahomes there for a minute. Baker Mayfield. That's it. Done. So he's 6 for me. Yes, Clutchful. We talked about this earlier in the episode. Did you say you would too? Draft a new quarterback for Broncos if it's possible?
Ah, man, I don't know, because Locke sometimes looks like he's got it figured out. You know, like every once in yeah, I think what they said, like on Sunday, he went like 0 for 6 to start the game with like an interception or 2. And then after that, he was like 20 for like 24 or something.
So what if Trask is sitting there at 15? Would you rather have Trask or Drew Lock?
I don't like Trask. Like I don't think he's an NFL starting quality quarterback.
Trey
So-
Lance or Drew Lock? I know you take Trey Lance. So
man, that's still tight because I liked Locke coming out. I had him graded as like a guy that'll be like a high end like QB2 as like his ceiling for like most of his like career. But
I also don't think it's fair to judge him that much right now. I mean, his offensive line sucks. His best wide receiver, Cortland Sutton's been hurt all year. Like, I mean, he's been.
You
hurt
know who
all
he looks
year.
like? He looks like Josh Allen, like the first couple of
year
years of Josh Allen. So, yeah.
Plus the Buzz Lightyear celebration, man. I love it. It cracks me up every time I see that clip. So,
Dude, like I said, I'm with you. I had Drew Lock hot too. I thought it was a great landing spot there for him in Denver. I don't know if they move on from him because I think Elway's kind of getting to that point where he just wants to win now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
So
they're a team though that I could see being aggressive. That I said earlier, like they're one of those teams that I could see like selling the farm to move up and take a quarterback if like a guy falls a couple spots. Yeah.
The reason I asked that question about the Eagles, the Broncos, and I actually had the Bengals there too. Do they take a quarterback? Is because of the injury to Burrow, but more so because of what the Cardinals did. Like, let's just get somebody else in here who's better. And so, like, if you have the Broncos, and there are a couple of quarterbacks that are, to me, would be better prospects than at least the top.
Arizona didn't trade up though. They just took him because they landed there. So would Denver really trade up just to get one of those guys? That's my question. I don't know, because you're talking about, you mentioned Austin, make that big trade. I mean, if you're moving up from 15 to 4, you're talking about you give up this first round pick. You probably have to give up your first round pick in 2022. Then you probably have to give up a second or a third as well to jump all the way up there. Like, I don't know if you do all that for Trey Lance.
They have a decent roster, though. I feel like they're very snake bitten this year with injuries.
Oh yeah,
I mean, like they don't really need to draft a receiver. And honestly, with Mike Mularkey there, I don't think you really have to draft like offensive linemen that high. I mean, as someone who just came off the Mike Mularkey experience in Pittsburgh, like he was freaking awesome. Like we have some first round guys on the line, but then he took like Alejandro Villanueva, who like Eagles cut. He was a bum there, and he's been great. And we had a revolving door at right tackle and right guard for a couple of years, and he plugged those holes every time. So I don't think you need like a guy with pedigree to come in there on the line. So I don't think they need to pick that. And their defense like is decent. I mean, what do they have? Like, their whole D line is out basically from what I've seen, and Von Miller's out. Their corners are all out. Like I think they're down to like their like backup corners. So they're I don't know. They're a team that I don't know how much they bring back. I don't know what their contract situation is for next year, but I could see them making like a big move and just saying screw it.
You all
I think
remember
their
when,
offensive line is messed up too.
do you all remember when Russ Grimm was a hot head? I mean, Austin, you probably remember when
I remember Russ Grimm
when he was a hot head coaching candidate.
Yeah.
It's all these these candidates who don't actually get the job, and then you just like never hear Terrell Austin in Detroit. He was Jim Caldwell's defensive coordinator and was like the hot head coaching candidate, and then I don't know where he is now. I think he's in Cincinnati actually, or he was in Cincinnati. Russ Grimm. I remember Russ Grimm because they were talking about him being the next head coach in Detroit. So
I feel like the NFC North is really good for that, like that category of guy. Like who was the guy that coached them? Yeah, like they just like Mike Tice.
Mike. I was gonna say it sounds like you're talking about Mike Tice.
Like there's a bunch of guys like that from that division. I feel like they come through and everyone's like, oh, they're the next big guy, and then like they either go somewhere for like 2 years and do not, and they're never heard from again, or like just never get that final job offer.
I really want to look into who are the next, NFL head coaching candidates for all these jobs that are going to be like the Jets. Like who's going to be coaching the Jets next year? Because we got Eric Bieniemy as one, but who are the 2 through 5?
Joe Brady,
Harbaugh.
Harbaugh, I think.
Oh God! Don't do that to the Jets, man! Don't do that to the Jets.
Harbaugh is a good coach. I think Harbaugh is a good coach.
He would be great with Lawrence because he doesn't have to develop him at all.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like he's already like there. It's like Andrew Luck all over again.
It is. Harbaugh. I kind of thought Joe Brady would be. I thought he would go to coach in college, in the college ranks, and become a head coach there. If I was a head coaching candidate, I think I would rather go to college because of the job security, and you make just as much money. You go. I mean, like Lincoln Riley. When is Lincoln Riley ever going to leave Oklahoma? Yeah. Well, he has no reason to.
It would be willingly. Yeah, it wouldn't. He's not going to go anywhere he doesn't want to go. Yeah.
No. He'll coach there for 10, 15 years and then entertain NFL gigs if he wants to. So
how do you feel about the the theory that you should in today's game get like an offensive mind for your head coach? Because if you get a defensive guy, then you have to bring the offensive guy in separate, and those guys tend to get poached after a year or two. Like I've heard people float that, and I think it's interesting.
I do not like offensive head coaches because one, offensive head coaches are often how should I say this? Like I feel like they don't relate well to the team as a whole. They tend to be more analytical and less jockey. I know that doesn't make sense. I'm just thinking about my own experience. Like if I had to pick between our offensive there's no way my offensive coordinator in college could have been a head coach. Like he just couldn't have. As a matter of fact, our defensive coordinator was the assistant head coach, and I just think that I don't know. I think that more often than not, these defensive head coaches are more often they played the game, they relate to the players, and I don't know. I would rather have a smart defensive head coach who could bring in somebody to be an aggressive offensive coordinator. I would have never let go of Jim Schwartz. I would have just made Jim Schwartz mature as a head coach. I really liked Jim Schwartz because I liked his personality style, the way it matched with the city of Detroit. Like I just liked that mesh, and he pulled the team from 0-16 to a playoff berth. I mean, let's not sell him short. I know people in Philadelphia don't like Jim Schwartz,
but damn it, I mean, he took a winless team and took them to the playoffs. Partly because, and that team was so undisciplined, but they had so much swagger. I mean, they were always jumping off sides, always committing penalties, but they wouldn't have been that team, that good of a team without that personality. So I don't know. I would pick a defensive head coach. And for the record, I think that Eric Bieniemy was a running back. He was an offensive player, but I feel like he's had experience on both sides of the ball. Plus, Eric Bieniemy gets after players like a defensive head coach.
So I think it depends though, because you've got Sean McVay. I think he's a great offensive coach, great head coach. Kyle Shanahan, Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland. I think you have to have that right mesh. I think the biggest thing with offensive coaches, because I do agree with you, Austin, that's the worst part about it, right? If you have a Vic Fangio in Denver, right? Great defensive coach, head coach. Say he were to bring in the next, Sean McVay, whoever that may be, and they do so good in 2 years, and then they're gone for a head coaching job. Well, now you have to bring in a whole new offensive coordinator who's probably going to bring in their whole new offensive system that might not fit the players you have. Where I think the offensive coach is what to kind of say what you're saying, Felix, is you also have to have that GM that meshes with that offensive coach. Though you have to bring in the right players that fit that system. Because if you bring in those players that fit that system, then I think it's going to work better with that coach compared to if you bring in just all these other players that don't fit the system and everything don't fit what the coach wants to do. I think that's where you get that kind of the butting of heads and things that don't work out. I'd rather bring in a defensive coach as my as my defensive coordinator. Just like, hey, dude, you can go head coach the defense, do whatever the hell you need to do. I'm going to leave you alone. I'm going to handle the offensive side of the ball and just kind of do it that way. Which is kind of again, I can only go off my experience of being a Browns fan. It's what they do in Cleveland. And I'm not a huge fan of what Joe Woods has been doing with that defense, but Kevin Stefanski doesn't go mess with it. He's Joe Woods handles the defense. I handle the offense, and they're 7-3.
I'm trying. You said Joe Brady. So Joe Brady would be. He's an offensive background. Eric Bieniemy, offensive background.
I mean, I think both get head coaching jobs this year. What is it, 4 or 5 every single year they get fired? I don't see. I mean, Jets. I would love to see the Jets get Bieniemy or Brady. I would like to see the Jets be good again.
I think Eric Bieniemy is going to go to Houston. I think he's going to go to a place that already has an established elite quarterback. And when Bill O'Brien got fired, I was like, damn, that's probably where Eric Bieniemy is going to go. I could see him going to Houston.
Well, see, they're saying that they may not hire a head coach. They're saying they may keep Romeo Crennel because they don't want to, which I think is stupid. But their quote, I remember because I read this 2 weeks ago, as I talked about on the other podcast, was they don't like to do over the computer or over the phone interviews. They want to be able to meet in person so they can see what kind of person you really are. And so because of COVID, they may not be able to meet in person. They said that they may just keep Romeo Crennel for another year, their current GM for another year, and just run it and see what happens. We can talk about him next week, Austin, because they play Oregon this week. So if he has another good game, I won't be able to stop professing my love for him. I feel like nobody's talking about him. I don't understand why nobody is talking about Jamar Jefferson, though. I mean, he had a breakout age at 18, was a phenomenal freshman running back, and then got hurt last year, and everybody thinks he sucks. I don't understand it.
It's those guys that have the sophomore tape that sucks. Because if you get injured and you play through it, I think because Dobbins' sophomore tape was garbage. It was
the same thing. He was dealing with an injury, and that's
It kills those guys, I think. If you don't develop at all from year 1 to year 2, you're just off the map.
I know. Some people. I was on a podcast with Ray the previous year, his junior year, talking about that, and he said the same thing. He's like, "Nah, Dobbins isn't going to be that good." I'm like, dude, Dobbins is amazing. You guys don't take what happened to him his sophomore year. It was he got hurt, and then Urban Meyer always played his veterans, his seniors and juniors. And so they kept getting Mike Weber the ball when, let's all be honest, Mike Weber was not anywhere near how good J.K. Dobbins was, and that hurt Dobbins' stock as well. And then we saw it last year. I mean, Dobbins was amazing. And so, I'm with you. Jefferson got hurt, and then when he came back, they were already giving I think it was Artavius Pierce the ball, and he hadn't been horrible, so they just kept giving Pierce the ball, and Jefferson couldn't really establish that role again. But I mean, dude, he's been amazing so far this year. Oops.
Yeah, no, I do like. I think he's in like that Jared Patterson tier for me. Like I have like my top 2, and then I have like 4 guys, and then after that, it's like Jared Patterson. Him.
I really like Jared Patterson.
I'm trying to think. You don't like him?
I really do like him.
Okay, I do too. He got that low center of gravity. It's like 2 inches off the ground. Like
I'm good with people not liking him because I feel like I could easily get him now in like the 3rd or 4th round of rookie drafts. With I mean, I have him a bunch of my campus to Canton league, so I'm going to have him regardless. But I think Devy drafts or rookie drafts, I think he's that guy who's going to slip through the cracks, and I think he could be good at the next level. He does everything well, in my opinion. He's not quite as good as a receiver out of the backfield, but just running wise, I think he's got great vision, great lateral speed. He's got good home run speed as well. He's not the fastest guy, but he'll beat most people to the end zone. I like
and
him,
he can
so
make those moves in tight spaces when he's running in the interior that are and I do like his low center of gravity. So
yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm trying to think who I was watching the other day that blew my mind that I was shocked no one's talking about.
What position?
I don't even remember anymore. I had it like written down to talk about tonight, and now I'm like looking through and it's gone. That's okay. I mean, no one's talking about Josh Johnson anymore. That's a guy that pops into my head. But I mean, is he playing this year?
Yeah, I don't know if he's still playing. I know Garrett was a big fan of his. I remember posting I think my running back ranks like last month, and I didn't have Josh Johnson in there, and that was the one thing Garrett kind of hit me on. He's like, "You're not giving Josh Johnson enough love." I was like, But then again, he was right on DJ Dallas, so I guess I got to give Garrett is a former running back. He probably knows more about the position than I do. So
was he right on DJ Dallas though?
For what he is,
like,
I mean, he didn't say DJ Dallas was going to be amazing, but for what he's been, yeah, I think he's been. He said he could be a serviceable like receiving back and change of pace back at the NFL level. Nobody, I mean, I didn't remember anybody talking about DJ Dallas outside of Garrett. So
it's a good point. It's a good point.
All right, boys, I got to find some food on this app. Like everything's closed.
So real quick question. So should I like add this stuff in at the end of the podcast every time or just leave it for the YouTube video?
I kind of like just leaving it for the YouTube video, but having like the pod up personally. I don't know what you feel about that, Felix.
It doesn't matter. Like again, I know. Well, here, hang on.